Hello, welcome everyone on this beautiful, although it's rainy in California, which I'm shocked that it's happening, but hope everyone is doing well. We're going to just get started. We're going to show a quick short video and then we'll get started.
Welcome to today's session, everyone.
We are preMed CC, a student-led organization established in the fall of 2021.
Our goal as an organization was to create an online program for pre-medical students at community colleges and universities, with the hope of guiding the next generation of diverse and inclusive physicians.
And while we advertise our organization as being for community college students, our events are open to anyone.
We realize that finding guidance and mentorship in a pre-med journey can be especially challenging for first-generation pre-med students,
people that lack the financial resources, or just those who do not know people in the medical field.
One of the best parts about our events is that they are virtual, so you can do it from the comfort of your own home.
We typically have events on Fridays from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and on Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 12:30 Pacific Standard Time.
If you aren't able to attend the event, all of our sessions are uploaded on our YouTube channel.
Many of our sessions will end up with a Q&A with the speakers.
Any questions that you have, you may put it in the Q&A session on Zoom, and our team members will read them and have them answer.
After you have attended our event, you can log into our website and complete the quiz, which will contain questions pertaining to our session today.
If you score 70% or higher on the quiz, you will be awarded a certificate to show that you attended our session today.
If you want to stay connected with the upcoming events or just want to tell your pre-med friends about the preMed CC, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok as @preMedCC.
Alrighty, well, welcome everyone. We're gonna let our panels introduce themselves and we could get started with, we can start with Lori.
Hi, everyone. How are you today? Thank you for having me. My name is Lori Jimenez, and I am a native from the DC area, born and raised in Falls Church. A little bit about my background. So I was the first in my family to attend college, and I started by going to my local community college, which in this area is called Northern Virginia Community College. And I went to college to get my degree in dental hygiene, and right after that started working as a dental hygienist. Did that for a few years, and over that time became really interested in mental health, genetics, and research. So I decided to go back to school, and since I really enjoyed working with patients, I was interested in pursuing a pre-med track. So I enrolled back in my local community college and completed an associate's in science with plans to transfer. And during my application period for transfer, I also was introduced to the NIH the community college research experience over the summer. And so I decided to apply to that as well. And I was accepted, and I did that over this past summer. I'll talk a little bit about that research experience that I had. Actually, I'll let you know that I also was accepted into Yale University as one of my my options for transfer. And so I just completed almost now my first semester there. And so the research that I did at the NIH was in their National Human Genome Research Institute in the metabolic medicine branch, specifically the skeletal genomics unit. I was really interested in applying in the specific lab that worked with skeletal genetics because I'm interested in working in genetics in the future. And my specific focus was in culturing or growing stem cell cultures that this lab plans to use later to differentiate into bone cells to use in their research. So yeah.
We could go with Catherine.
Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Garcia. Thank you so much for having me. I am a third year community college student. I also went to the same community college as Lori, Northern Virginia Community College. I live in Alexandria, Virginia, and I'm in the process right now of transferring hopefully to a four-year university. So May would be my last semester, and I've compiled a long list. And overall, how we got to know each other through the NIH. I didn't even know what the NIH was initially, but I was a part of a great community and club at my college, which was called SACNAS, which is like a minority club for science students. And so it's really interesting. You get exposed to so many amazing opportunities, kind of like what preMed CC is doing. And through that, they sent us to a conference in Puerto Rico, and NIH was one of the booths, and they were promoting their internships, all these amazing opportunities. And so I was like, okay, well, why not? And so I applied, not even really knowing what an internship was, because I am first generation, and my parents are from Peru. So this college, everything was very new to me, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing. So these exposure opportunities, kind of like this one, helped me a lot and were very beneficial. And so I applied thinking I really wasn't going to get in because all I knew is that internships were really hard to get into and get accepted. Nonetheless, I still wanted to apply because I found it really interesting. And I always found opportunities that were like volunteering or anything that could help build my resume as I am interested in medicine. And so I applied and then I became a finalist and I got in. I was really excited because I was just starting to get into cancer those couple of months because I have a lot of family that have diseases, unfortunate diseases. So I'm really fond with cancer specifically because it is terminal. And so I wanted to go into the oncology field and find out more about oncology research. And thank God I got into the interventional oncology lab under great physicians and scientists. And there I got to know more about what cancer is and go more in depth of what really researchers do behind the scenes. And it was an amazing opportunity where we got to know all these amazing people, including here, which I consider them my friends. And yeah, it was a great opportunity, and I would love to go more in depth, but um, thank you so much.
Pirsa, do you want to go next?
Yep, sure. Hello, everyone. This is Amir Parsa. I'm so happy to be here today. So, just a quick background. I started my college education in Canada at York University. So I studied for a semester in Canada. I was majoring in bio. Since then, I was knowing that I'm probably going to be a pre-dental student, so I was majoring in bio. Then after a semester of studying there, I moved to Maryland, I continued my education in Montgomery College for about a year. With those credits, I transferred to University of Maryland this semester. So I just started at the University of Maryland. Technically, I'm sophomore. Yeah, so that's it for my education. I was accepted through this CSEP program, the community college program for NIH in the previous summer. And I work in National Institution of Health dental part, the NIDCR. We were working on a gum disease called periodontitis. Our lab was kind of infection lab. It wasn't like 100% dental related. It was kind of between immunity and dental, which was pretty interesting for me because I never had experience of dental research kind of thing, and it was a serious start for me, and it was pretty good experience. Yeah, and also through this CSEP program, later on we will be talking about it more, but we've done different workshops. We all did a 5-minute talk. We all had a poster, which was about the research that we did. Our research was particularly working on the fibroblast, which we were focusing on their roles on periodontitis and how they're going to affect them. But later on, we'll talk about it more. So happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, last but not least, we let Rachel.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Rachel Butterfield, and I'm from Santa Rosa, California.
I grew up here and then I enrolled in Santa Rosa Junior College as a dietetics major. I thought I wanted to be a dietitian. But after taking a few classes, I was like, I really like this. I want to keep doing this. Um, and I decided to take on pre-med, which was a dream since I was a kid. But as a first generation student, I didn't really know how to go about that. I didn't really know it was possible, and I knew some dietitians, so that seemed like the easy way for me to go. But yeah, my experience here has kind of built my confidence, and especially my experience over the summer continued to do so. Um, but yeah, I'm a second year student here now, and last summer I was accepted into the program after finding out about it, just like you guys through preMed CC, as well as through my community college's MESA program, Mathematics, Engineering, Science Achievement. Highly recommend joining if any of you guys have that at your campuses and you're in community college. But yeah, I enrolled there and I got into the program, and I was working in Dr. Hammer's lab, which is a molecular cell biology lab. So it's basic cell biology. I didn't really know what I wanted to research. I didn't really have a specific field that I was super interested in. And I kind of let them know that in my application. I just said, like, I'm interested in whatever you guys can give me. I just want to learn and I'm interested in everything. So I was really honest about that, and they gave me exactly what I wanted. I had a great experience in my lab. My lab focused on the role of myosin 10 in microtubule dynamics of dendritic cells during directed migration, which is a really lengthy name, and I didn't really know what it meant at first either, but I learned over the summer, and it concluded in the poster project. I had a great time, and I was able to bring back my poster back home and present it in front of the MESA program here. So it really came full circle. And so now I'm applying to transfer in the upcoming year, and I've been able to take that experience with me really far. So I'm excited to talk more about that today.
Very cool. Sorry. So one of the questions, so the undergraduate, so how did you find out about, like, what was the application process when you were applying to it? Can you guys share a little bit about that?
I can go ahead and start. So I told all of you that I found out through preMed CC primarily, pretty much. And I attended Dr. Milgram's presentation that she had last year, which she'll be having again for you guys next week. So highly recommend going and learning more about the program and like specific details about the application, because that's what I did. And I also watched a video that she had posted on YouTube herself through the NIH that had tips for applying. That's kind of what gave me the confidence to be so outright about like the fact that I didn't really know exactly what field I was interested in. Because she goes in depth about that in the video. And the application, you need 2 letters of recommendation. There's like an essay response. They updated their website, so I think it might be a little bit different this year. But yeah, I recommend like seeing all of the videos you can find about applying and just really letting yourself be honest about where you're at with your application when you're applying.
I can add 2 stuff to it, because this is a bit confusing when you want to apply. You could apply when you want to work as a summer intern at NIH. You have basically 2 major paths. One of them is to just apply as a SIP, which is a general summer intern. Then the process for this way is you have to find out which lab you want to work in. Try to find your connection with the PIs. Just send them an email, just call them or something and say like, we are interested, I'm interested on your research, I would like to work in your lab. This is one way. We all didn't do the same way because we were applying through a sub program called, mine was CSEP, since I was community college student at the time of application. So these programs might help you better, because in that case, it is more particular, it might be less competitive, and it would be easier. You would just prioritize the institution that you want to work with. Like mine was dental institution at the first priority. Then they're gonna, if you get accepted, then they're gonna just match you, and you don't have to be worried that now who should I contact with? Are they going to accept me or not? And this is something that you could take into consideration. If you have the qualification for any kinds of those sub programs, I would suggest to apply first for them. And the point is, if you do not get accepted in those programs, in those sub-programs, then you're going to automatically be going to the SIP. If I'm wrong, they could correct me, but this is what I know about this program.
Yeah, it's a tiered application cycle. So you apply first for like the sub-program you're interested in, such as CSEP, which is the Community College Summer Enrichment Program that's specifically for community college students. And then there's a list of other sub-programs that you can say that you're interested in. And if you don't make it into the first sub-program, they'll keep pushing you back and back to all the programs that you're applicable for. And then hopefully you'll end up where you want to be.
Yeah, so I can add on yeah, the sub programs are really beneficial because they're a smaller pool of applicants compared to the SIP is like a larger pool. So I really recommend if like Amir was saying, if you meet all the qualifications and you're really interested in one of those sub programs, definitely apply to one of them. I think you can only apply to one as I recall, because I remember only applying to CSEP because also the community college. And also being a community college student, you kind of have a certain advantage. And I also heard about this when I was hearing from the SACNAS group promoting the NIH, because we're not at a disadvantage being a community college student, but it's kind of like I guess it's harder to get certain opportunities. So when you apply to very prestigious opportunities like these, they really see your value and they really see your application holistically and kind of give you an advantage. I really wasn't sure how to apply, so I did everything Rachel was saying, actually. I remember going through the website, looking through every single little thing. I recommend those videos 100% because they were very beneficial. They tell you in depth what to do, what they're looking for, what they do not want, very clearly state everything. And they are just perfect because I feel like also when they're looking at your application, they can tell, okay, who watched the video and who didn't, because they say exactly what they want and don't want. And make sure, I feel like that's the most important part. Make sure when you have your letters of recommendation, they're from somebody who know you well, not know you just as like a student with good grades, but they know of your character and your personality, I guess, in a way also. Because the your grade point average is obviously very important, but they also want to see how are you in a classroom? Are you a leader? How are you in the academic sense? So yeah, those would be some great opportunities I would recommend.
Okay, so I would like to add a little bit more onto that. I don't know if some of the other question, if you have another question you wanted to ask, or if we answered enough for that question, but I wanted to mention about something I specifically did, and it was reach out to the director of the program I was interested in applying to. I'll mention that I applied to CSEP, but I also applied to a different program called iSpring, and it's specifically through the NHGRI, which is the National Human Genome Research Institute. So that's something else for you guys to explore. You don't actually have to only apply through CSEP or one of the only like the things listed on under SIP, which is a summer internship program at the NIH. You actually can go to like the specific institute that you're interested in, and they might have internship opportunities as well. And then those are things that you arrange specifically with the institute. And so since I was interested in applying to the NHGRI, I reached out to the director of that program, and I was able to start developing a relationship with that person. And she gave me one-on-one advice. And I really felt like when I was working on my application that she was looking out for me, because she offered to receive my application and give me feedback on my essay to make it more competitive. So I would say in addition to like watching the videos, and make sure you're doing all that, because you don't want to ask questions that are easily found online or in these videos. But you do want to take advantage of like the people that are actually like behind the doors. They're actually more receptive than you'd think. And also take advantage of like your professors, like people you're going to be asking for it, recommendation letters. I asked my cell biology professor for a recommendation letter. And then when I wrote my essay for my application, I asked him to also check it, to edit it. So take advantage of the people around you to give you advice on making your application stronger.
All right, anyone want to add anything else? All right, our next question we have is what qualifications do you need for the NIH?
I could start answering this question. There are some basic requirements, no matter which sub-program or general application you are applying to. Like what I remember was you have to be a certain age, yes, 17 or above, or 17 and a half, something. You have to be US citizen. You have to be either US citizen or US permanent resident for these programs that I know, and for SIP programs. If you want to apply for each sub-program, they have different requirements. Like ours was, you have to be attending a community college at the time of application, or you have to have the approval for the admission. So you don't have to be necessarily a community college at the time of application, as far as I know. You have to just have the admission approval or something that shows that you're going to be a community college student. But if you are applying to sub-programs, this is what one of the advisor told me: be precise, because you have to, the very first filter is you have to know that you have the qualifications, because otherwise they're gonna just reject your application pretty soon, like right after. So make sure that you have those qualifications, then you could start applying for it. Then I guess Rachel or Lori can add if they know something else about the qualifications. Or Catherine.
Yeah, so what I'll start off by saying is you don't need prior research experience. I think I really need to emphasize that. So this summer research experience was pretty much my first summer research experience. And at the time when I was applying, I felt like that would be a disadvantage. But these programs are in place specifically to give community college students or other individuals who haven't had the opportunity to have that sort of experience. It's in place to give them that opportunity. And so I want to just highlight that, because in my application, that was something I also mentioned, was the limited resources that were available. In, like the 2 times that I personally went through community college, it was not available at my specific community college. And so I highlighted that, and it's not something that they're expecting. That's why they want to pay you to come and to gain that experience. And so I just want to emphasize that you don't need to have research experience before. That's not a qualification, or a qualification that they expect.
I'll add to that by saying that even you might think like a cell molecular biology class would be a prerequisite for a program like this, but I didn't take that class prior to my research experience, and I thought that that would put me way down on the bottom of the list and make me not applicable, even though it didn't really specify that in the website, but I applied anyways. And I think what helped is that I was super curious. So regardless of the fact that I hadn't taken a cell molecular biology class, I'd only taken like my basic, like a few general chemistry classes, like the intro to bio class at my community college. And I had no prior research experience, but I told them that I was very curious and that I wanted to learn more. And I maintained that throughout my experience there. I was very honest with my mentor that I didn't know very much about cell molecular biology, despite that that's what the lab I was working on was doing. And she was very kind and patient with me and able to explain the things to me that I didn't understand. And I left with a lot more information, and now I'm taking cell molecular biology and I understand what I'm doing a lot better. So it really is designed for people that don't have that experience yet and that want to gain it, that are really curious. They provide you with everything else.
Yeah, and for you to really understand what they're doing in research is you have to like go get your bachelor's, PhD, and spend about 10 years to really like be prepared. So the whole point of these programs is they don't want you to come in knowing how to do, because if you know how to do all the stuff, then might as well just be a researcher and not a summer program. So I know Rachel a little bit, so I'm not trying to embarrass her, but she took what were the classes you took? You were taking general chemistry and intro bio, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, just like really basic stuff. So yeah, so you don't need to have like upper division. Well, technically, community college you can't have upper division classes, but even upper division classes, um, to that. And so that's just kind of like you guys always ask about, like, oh, what do I need to do? I think there's another question is the experience in undergraduate research or um, so I think Rachel and Lori just said they didn't do any research before. And did you do any research, Catherine, before
Um,
this?
no, this was actually also my first research experience, so it was very nice, like dipping your toes into the water and getting a sense of what it's really like. I was also really intrigued in this opportunity because I was interested in pursuing, I think it's called an MD PhD, so becoming a physician scientist because I found out about that opportunity also with SACNAS. And so I wanted to see, well, what is it to have an actual MD PhD? And in this program, I guess the most valuable thing I got is the amount of exposure you get. Like you're assigned a mentor and a PI, and when you have a mentor, you can kind of just tell them everything. At least that's the relationship I had with mine. And so the first thing when I got there, I told them all my goals, all my plans, and I really wanted to just see, do I really want to pursue that? And I got to meet a physician scientist and kind of ask them like what their day-to-day role is and kind of get a sense of how my life would be if I wanted to pursue it. And yeah, it was overall, yes, it was my first research opportunity. I hope it's a first of many.
Um, Nishi, did you want to ask that question?
Yeah. So a follow-up question we have is what classes did you guys take to better prepare for this?
I can start answering this question. So you mean for the summer internship, right?
I believe so, yes.
Uh, I don't think there is any requirements or anything which directly helps you. Um, Probably knowing some basic biology, and because this SIP application, there is a section for even high school students, which is SIP. It says HS slash SIP. So it means that even high school students could apply for this program. So it basically you don't need like upper division courses for sure. If you know some basic chemistry, basic biology, it would be helpful in your lab because you're dealing with some stuff that needs you to just know some biology. But in our lab, as I said, we were working on kind of immunity. It was a kind of immunity lab. So they told me just go through like T cells, learn about the basic immunology and those kinds of things. But I don't think there is a special course that you have to take, and don't worry about it. Just I mean, just focus on what you're majoring in, because I know I had some friends who were majoring even in computer science and applied through this program, even in a bio lab. So doesn't necessarily need a special course for this program.
All right. Anyone have anything else they want to add? All right. Our next question we have is, can high school students who are also taking community college classes apply?
I wasn't really aware of this, but then when I made some connections, I met somebody who was she was a high school student and she was going to apply to the community college after her internship, and she was in the I think it's called High Step 2.0, which is specifically just for high school students.
Yeah,
And
they
sorry,
yeah
yeah.
they take high school students, but only if they're local to Virginia, Maryland, DC area. Um, I know that Dr. Milgram talked about this last year. Basically, it's a very small number of people that are there, so you can't be like from California and as a high school student. I think you have to be over 18 to be over there by yourself. Um, but yeah, they have high school students there, and I think the program that you called, I wasn't sure the name of it, but um, yeah. So yeah, and I think somebody asked in the question too if they are high school taking community college, and again, it goes back to being, I think it's 18, yeah, I think 17 or 18, I'm not sure. I think it's 18, but
It's
and I
17
think
for high school.
okay, yeah, and but I think if you're 17 and you have to be local, I would say the best thing you could do is ask Dr. in a couple of weeks. Um, I think that's the best question because I remember she talked about this last year, but I wasn't like, but I'm pretty sure they do take high school students. But yeah. Um, I think there was another question. Can you guys talk about housing? Did
Yeah,
the
so
NIH provide housing?
no, the NIH does not provide housing, unfortunately. The campus is not big enough for that, even though it is like huge. Um, but they just get so many people that come all the time that there's not enough room for everyone. Especially with this program, I believe like they get like 1,000 applicants, or 1,000 people that are actually able to come, for the summer internship program. So what I did, was I found housing at American University, which is a metro stop away from the NIH campus. So the metro is a really nice system. I did not know about it at all until I, was researching it a little bit. I was trying to find housing. But basically, when I was staying at American University, I was staying in a dorm, and it was like an apartment style single dorm that I was sharing with a few other interns. But I had my own room, and then I could take the free bus over to the metro stop. That was like a 3 or 5 minute bus ride, and then the metro took me directly to the NIH campus. So I'd get off right at the Gateway Center to the NIH, um, and it was super convenient. It was like a 15-minute commute every morning for me, and it wasn't too expensive. I don't remember the exact price, but there are a few colleges in that area that offer that kind of opportunity. Something I wish that I knew about before I applied, though, was that the NIH does have something called FAES housing. I had a friend that was staying in one of those places, during the program, and it's right outside of the NIH campus in Bethesda. Um, and it's super nice. There are a lot of people that work at the NIH that stay there. I think like postdocs even live there sometimes. Um, but they have like their own fridge. That was the craziest part. There was like 5 fridges in one kitchen, and everything's like brand new. And it was less expensive than what I was paying to stay at American University. So if I were to go back, I would definitely be taking advantage of that. And I highly recommend looking into it. I'm not sure exactly what the guidelines or like what it's like to try to get into one of those places, but I did know an intern that was staying there. So I'd look into that.
Anyone else?
So, the main campus at the NIH, which we were all at, is in Bethesda, Maryland. I remember somebody asking. There are many campuses for the NIH internship. There's, I believe, one in Frederick, one in Baltimore. I'm not exactly sure, but there's like several locations, one in North Carolina for sure. And then there's a couple other, and then the main campus is in Bethesda. I live in Alexandria, Virginia, and so it was a kind of like a far commute, and you could either drive or take the metro. And so what I really found such an amazing like benefit of this program is that they are really willing to fund everything. Like they pay for your trans share, which is your little metro card every single day, and so you don't have to worry about like the money for transportation or anything. And coming from like a low income household, it's like a weight off your shoulder because you don't have to worry about that, because even though it's not a lot, day by day it starts going a little higher. And so they're really willing to just fund your education, like help you, get the most you can out of the research experience.
Yeah, so to add to that, there are different locations. I actually just answered somebody in the chat. I think the main campus is in Bethesda, Maryland, like Catherine said, and I think they do research in like Montana, Hamilton, Montana, and then I think maybe in Frederick, Maryland, you can actually put that in your preference for your application where you prefer to go to if you were accepted into the internship, because they have other campuses as well, so they can accommodate as well. So
Yeah, and one of the people in our group, Min, actually did her summer research for the NIH remotely, and she lived in Texas, but she did it remotely from home. And there's opportunities that you could do it remotely as well. She had a really unique situation that she couldn't travel, so she was doing a remote work, and she got funding for it too, so that was kind of cool. Any other housing besides Rachel being fish out of water from the West Coast? All right. So yeah, DC has a lot of places that you could stay, so you won't be homeless. All right.
Our yeah,
No, go ahead.
Our next question we have is, what are we expected to write in our essay?
So something they emphasize in the application process is that they really want all these diverse backgrounds. They really want to know, are you coming from a low income household? Where is your family from? Do you consider yourself a part of the LGBTQ plus community and all these other diverse requirements? And if you do belong to any of those, I don't want to say categories, but into any of those, I really recommend you emphasizing that in your essay. Like for me, for example, I mentioned that I was a first generation college student coming from a low income household with Peruvian parents. So I had very little knowledge of such grand opportunities like these, and that although it's been hard, I really strive to work the best I can to get these great opportunities. And they really appreciate that because, there could be a student who are coming from all of these different obstacles, and then there's the 4.0, I don't want to say easy, but like different background, and they just see, they kind of see the difference. And so that, if you please really, if you come from any of those, really emphasize that in your essay, because that is a great advantage you have.
I want to add. Go ahead.
You go first.
No, you go first.
I was just going to say that with what Catherine said about emphasizing the diversity that you bring, it's also important to emphasize how you want to overcome that and how you have been overcoming that, the challenges associated with what you're facing. So like as a first generation student, like I wanted to emphasize that I'm also taking advantage of the programs at my community college that make me more knowledgeable about the opportunities that are available to me. And that includes the applying to the NIH. I'd also like to add that it's important to be honest about where you're at. If there is specific things that you want to take advantage of there and that you want to see happen, it's important to emphasize that in your application, as well as if you don't know, like what I did. I didn't know exactly what lab I wanted to end up in, what I was really interested in researching, and I was completely honest about that. And I think they appreciated that more than anything. They really just want to see where you're at. It's not your opportunity to just like throw in some random thing you think they'll find impressive, but it's a space where you can kind of express yourself and where you're at so they can meet you there.
I wanted to just point out that these are absolutely the right points that you have to mention in your essay, but I guess later on you could mention in your essay, in a part of your essay, that after that part you have to mention which are the institutions that you want to work with. So you have to just refer to one of those institutions at least to say that, just make a connection that why you want to, like, for example, work in a cancer institute, or why you want to work in a dental institution. Like my priority was working in dental and craniofacial institution. And my reason for it, which I used in my essay, was I'm a pre-dental, so I want to have an exposure with like dental research and see how I can be a researcher and dentist at the same time. So I was just like showing my enthusiasm in the research as a dentist. So I just made this connection. So think about where you want to work out of those there are like at least 40 departments that I know at the main campus, which are a lot. Each of them are like a huge building. Think about that, and then just make a connection why you want to work there, and just mention it in your essay.
Yeah. I do think it's important to have some sort of idea of how the research at the NIH, like that summer internship, will help you achieve the things that you're interested in achieving. And it could be that you have it very clear in your mind, and it could be that you're still trying to figure it out. And even just trying to figure it out, having that experience can help you to do that, can help you make things more clear. So even if you just worded it like that, in a way, like you either know exactly what you want to do, and this specific lab with this specific research is going to help you to get there, or you're not sure, but you're interested in getting into this type of industry. And so you think that working in a lab that has something to do with that can help you get more clarity. That is the purpose of all of this. Like, the more experience you get in life in general, the clearer you're going to be with, maybe the path that you want to choose. And so, yeah, I think that's the purpose of these experiences and these opportunities, is for you to gain more clarity and understanding in where you want to go. And so to add to that, I do think it's important for you to look at the NIH website. I'm going to see if I can get a link to drop in the group chat about finding the research that's being done at the NIH, and you can look specifically by institution or even by topic. And so just kind of having an idea of what's available at the NIH, it would be good for you to incorporate in your essay, because I would say it would be helpful for you to show that you've done your own research, that you're going in with some sort of intention on what you're trying to accomplish at the NIH. Even though, and it's okay, again, that if you don't really know, like you're not sure, but having some sort of idea of what you're trying to gain from this experience. So I'll see if I can find that, but I do think it is important to do some research about what's available at the NIH that may, again, be connected, like Amir Parsa said, might be connected to your personal interests.
Yeah, this is going to take a little bit of research on your part and curiosity. So, NIH, and I think Lori's going to put that on there. That's quite a lot of information, and a lot of it you're not going to understand, but you could just say, hey, I'm interested in XYZ, and they probably have a somebody that's doing research on it somewhere. Nishida?
Yeah. Our next question we have is, did you take classes during your internship?
Technically, you're not allowed to take classes, because I got an email. I mean, everyone got this email that you're obligated from 9 to 5 during that time. So, I mean, you might be able to take classes at night, particularly if you're a community college student, it would be easier. But overall, I guess it would be really hard. And you have to be there from 9 to 5. So you wouldn't be able to take even online classes. So basically, if you want to work, I was giving this advice to one of my friends. I was saying to him that if you want to do the research this summer, you have to dedicate one summer to it. Even if you want to study for MCAT or DAT, it would be really hard, because there are not lots of pressure on you. It's not kind of working pressure at the summer internship, but still you need to spend time. You have to be there. You have to work, even for, different workshops that we had. We have to make a poster or do a 5-minute talk. So these are like things that you need time even out of those working hours. So it would be really hard to take classes during the summer internship.
Yeah, they definitely. Oh, sorry, Jubin.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say they definitely don't recommend it. I ended up taking 2 classes over that summer. I was taking 2 art history classes asynchronously, and I managed. It was okay. I did have a friend that was taking like an online biology course over the summer as well, and I think that was a lot harder for her. I didn't have too hard of a time. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's possible if you really need to get like one of those prerequisite courses out of the way. Yeah, you need a lot of time for the program itself. And if you're taking a demanding course during it, it's not very easy.
Yeah, especially the CSEP program, they did really want to emphasize that it is like a full-time job because we had to do research for 40 hours a week. I also wanted to take a class to get one of those major requirements out of the way, but before I decided to do that, I wanted to speak to my mentor and get an idea because it was my first time doing research, and I was like, what if I take the class and research is not as easy as I think it is? So speaking of my mentor, he really recommended against it because he was like, you're gonna do this and you're gonna do that, but if you really would like to take a class, then we can make it work. It all kind of depends on the mentor and the type of research you're also doing. But I ended up not doing it because I would have had like heart attack because my class was in person, and so I would have had to commute to Bethesda, and then I don't know how I would have commuted back and made to class on time. And I spoke to my professor, and she was like, you can be late 2 times, and then you have to leave the class because you can't keep showing up late. So I was like, I'm not gonna put my professor through that stress. And I also don't want to like, freak out running to class. So I just decided not to take a class and kind of just focus on my internship and just really enjoy it because I feel like the stress would have overwhelmed me a lot.
Yeah, and something else I want to add is that I think one thing I realized when I went to the NIH, and I didn't realize this when I was applying, is how many things outside of research are going to be available for you to experience. They have so many workshops and meetings, conferences, things that like there was so much to do like every day that you could participate with outside of the research you're doing with your lab. And I think just making yourself available to enjoy those things really enriches your experience at the NIH. And so I wanted to mention that because I don't think that's like something that people realize. When you go, it's like I felt like I was a kid in a candy shop. Like there was so many things. Like if you're pre-med, they have like events every week on giving you advice on your application, on your like classes that you can take. It really is like every single week they have courses on anything you could possibly think of. If you're interested in getting to like a specific field, you can go because of the institutions. They have like 27 institutions. The institutions also host their own events about their research that they're doing, and so you can attend any of those. Those are pretty open to the staff members, and you're considered a staff member during the summer. So I wouldn't recommend you take a course or like be distracted during the summer. Just try to really focus on your internship experience at the NIH.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the NIH. I haven't done research there, but I've visited it, and it's huge. It's many, many, many buildings. The other thing is now that COVID is down, the NIH has a hospital that you could shadow, and like they have all the cool, sexy cases in there. Somebody joked about it that it's kind of like House MD. So some of you that are old enough that watched House, because I figured nobody, if you're 18 or 17, you don't know what House MD is. But anyways, but they get like really, really complicated cases. A couple of years ago, when they had the Ebola outbreak, all of the patients that were coming back from Africa were actually at the NIH hospital. So they get some pretty cool stuff. Um,
All right. Our next question we have is, are the expenses covered by the program? Do you get paid for this research?
Yes, same as previous time. I will start first. Okay, so there is a stipend. It's not I mean, they call it stipend, so it's based on the number, it's based on the what year you are. So if you're a sophomore, it would be higher than if you're a freshman, if you're a junior or senior. I mean, it really depends on your level as a summer student. As a post-bac, it would be higher. And what I realized about, because there are other summer internships in different universities also, which they also offer stipend. I guess NIH was one of the ones with the highest stipend. And that was something which was pretty cool about it.
Yeah, so they give you a stipend that's monthly, and they also give you the like transportation fee is covered. So housing is pretty much the housing and food are the two things that you have to worry about over the summer. But they do give you the monthly stipend, and then you report to them what transportation you're using, and based on that, they'll give you money for that as well.
Yeah, and Rachel, this is kind of what about flying to there and back?
Yeah, so when I applied it, they said that they would not cover that. They ended up covering one way for me, in the end. So they covered like my way there. They like scheduled the flight for me there, and then I had to cover the way back home.
Or you could have just stayed there. I'm not leaving.
I wish.
Somebody asked about can you work on the weekends and after hours, and what does that answer?
I guess it's basically depends on your lab, but generally, if you're working, because it's two separate things if you're applying as a sub program. So you have some obligations because of that sub program. So you have to attend some mandatory like kind of workshops, which they are during the week. I mean, from Monday to Friday. And there are some stuffs, I mean, you have to be in your lab from 9 to 5. I know some people who work on weekend, but if people are looking for like working or studying during Monday to Friday and just do the research on weekends, it's not happening.
Yeah, it depends who your mentor is, and what program you're in, I think. My mentor was very strict about not wanting me in after 5 p.m. or before 9 a.m. or on the weekends. So if there were anything that I needed to do that wasn't within like normal working hours, she did it for me, which is super kind. But I think she just was trying to not scare me away from research. Um, so yeah, I know that there were certain mentors that did give more work to their mentees, and some people, yeah, Lori. So yeah, you can talk about that. But specifically for me, I was not in there on the weekends or after 5 p.m. And yeah, it was. You can also work through that with like the CSEP program director, or your program director if there's like a lot of hours they're giving you. I know some people had issues with that, and they were able to reach out to our director and get that fixed. But
Yeah, the other thing
Yeah.
is you're going there to have an experience for the summer, the entire week, and not just on the weekends and during the week you do something else. Like if that's what you want to do, like this is not a program for you. They expect for you to be a full-time employee. The other part of it too is that like it's kind of like if a baby is born, do you leave it alone around the kitchen and around knives and chemicals that you could burn yourself and hurt yourself? So no, they don't, unless they know you for at least 6 or 8 months and know they're not going to let you go in the lab alone because you could actually hurt yourself. And the reason I know this is because I work in an ER next to a big university, and I could tell you every single week we have one or two grad students or somebody that's been hurt in a lab that comes in with chemical and all that other stuff. So it's a liability. So it's not like you just go sit in the lab and you do your thing. It's a huge responsibility they have. The other part of it too is they have millions of dollars in there that if you go in there and screw it up, they literally could lose or you break a machine that's worth like $2 million, then I don't think your paycheck could cover the $2 million, or you have to work at the NIH for a really long time to pay that
I
off.
want to I want to just add something here because it was interesting. So, I mean, despite that, in our lab, we had like pretty expensive thing. I was working with a microscope, which the lens of that microscope was worth $40,000, just a lens. And it was, but the point that I want to mention is they gave you the authority. They want to make you confident And I was just like doing a part of important research, which was the actual research. And they just gave me all the entire, like, it was a dissection, like extracting the spleen and just taking this. It was a part of experiment. So they gave you this authority, they gave you this power to just do it on your own. And this is the thing which makes you confident, and which shows that they are not really looking for someone to work for them. They are looking for someone to just learn something there and just develop themselves. So this is something that you could feel good about. But yeah, and on the other hand, you have to be careful about stuff.
Yeah, and it really does depend on the lab. Like Rachel said, I had a great experience. I actually really enjoyed my experience and the lab I worked with because what ended up happening is that the project that I took on was not being worked on by anyone. And so I had to take on a lot of it by myself, with the postdoc kind of giving me like the first steps and kind of checking in a little bit. But it was like taking care, like I was growing stem cells and very sensitive. And so I personally would have to come in on the weekends to check on them and to work on them. And my PI was completely okay with it, and everybody else in the lab was completely okay with it. But that was like a very unique like incidents. I know that like other labs, they may not have felt the same. And so it really just it does depend on like the project you're working on. It depends on the PI that you have. And so, my commitment, it was maybe a little bit more, I don't know, than 40 hours. But I gained a lot of experience, a lot of confidence, like your Parsa said, in just being able to like troubleshoot and feel like I was able to kind of do something on my own and see results from it. So yeah, that's another thing. There was a question in the chat about like what we liked about research and what draws us to it. And I think personally, I feel like in the world there's a lot of things we don't know. There's a lot of questions that need solving, and I think research is the way to get to that solution. And so understanding how to do research is a skill, and being able to gain that skill and develop that over time can help you become someone who can, shed light on some of these like big questions. And so I think that's fascinating to me. Like that really draws me to research. And yeah, and I expect to do it for a long time. But personally now, like I shifted kind of away from wet lab just because an opportunity came up at my institution to do bioinformatics. And so now I'm like exploring bioinformatics. And so it's really interesting to kind of look at like the different ways that you can do research, again, to like use this information to solve like bigger questions, bigger problems.
All right, just before I ask the next question, does anyone have anything else they want to add? All right, so our next question we have is there any open opportunities for once you already transfer out of a community college into a university with the NIH that also has sub-programs?
Yes, there is the program called CSOR. So it's just basically the step after. So I had a friend who was a community college student who got accepted as a CSIP the year before, and then just applied as a CSOR the year after. And thankfully, hopefully, they have the same director as far as I know. I mean, Dr. Barr was director for both programs. So it would be a good advantage for you if you were like a community college student through this, you were like accepted through the CSIP, then you just applied, they knew you would be, it wouldn't be as hard as the first time to get in. So yeah, there are plenty of options, and there are like 8 or something sub programs. So you should be able to just find yourself to be qualified in one of those. Just see the requirements and see which one just meets your requirements, and then you would be able to just find one sub program which meets your need.
Anything else anyone wants to add?
Somebody in the question asked about if you have a bachelor's degree and there's a post-bac program. I just put the link on there that there's a non-community college, and there's like 6 programs that are from college, students that are not at community college, which you could, if you're at community college, I think you could apply to those. And there's a post-bac program. There's like 6 programs that I saw there. So you can take a look at each program and see um, what's out there. And I think that's the other one that Lori applied to, right? SIP program, right?
I applied to
UGSP.
the iSpring program, and that was specifically for the NHGRI. If anybody's interested in genetics research, I can add that into the group chat as well.
Yeah, there's CSOR. There's a lot of programs. Like you have to do a little bit of research on your own. Because I mean, every time I go there, I find something new, or I hear something new from someone else. There's also the MSOR, which is for medical students. Um, um, and I think there was another question, Nishida, that you had.
I just finally found the name of the program I was thinking of. Sorry. There's a program called UGSP, the Undergraduate Scholarship Program, which they really try to push onto you while you're in the CSEP program. It's a really cool opportunity. You get the chance to come back. So they'll help. Okay, when you transfer from community college, they will help pay for your education. In exchange, you also get to work for them every single summer that they pay for your education, and then an extra year after you graduate. I hope I got all that right. But some people think that like committing to working for them after you graduate and committing to working for them every summer is kind of a drawback. But I honestly, personally think that it's like an additional opportunity. Like it's a really cool program to get involved in. So after CSEP, I highly recommend looking into that. I am thinking about applying. I'm looking more into it right now. So yeah, even if you're not going to do the program, I highly recommend looking into that because it's a great way to get research experience.
Yeah, and adding about UGSP, I was also really interested. And since I do plan on going to the medical field, so medical school, my biggest concern was like, okay, what if after my undergrad, I want to go straight to medical school? And so I asked this question. They were like, well, come back when you finish medical school. So they're very flexible as long as, I guess you're paying back with the years you're giving back to the research, which is, it's just another amazing opportunity.
All right. Our second question we have is, how do you apply to research in the NIH? Is there a list of research opportunities, and does one select what they're more inclined to?
So within the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, there are a ton of different ICs, which are intramural, or oh my gosh, centers, institutes and centers. There's so many acronyms, it's hard to keep track. But yeah, so you can kind of look into the different institutes and centers, and they're more broad, and then there are certain labs within each institute and center that you can also look into. You can be as broad as saying you want to look into the specific institute or like a few specific institutes and centers, or you can be really specific about the exact lab inside of what exact institute you're interested in. So they do ask you to choose a few institutes and centers, I think up to 3 that you're interested in working in. And it is important that those kind of tailor to what you're saying you're interested in specifically in researching in your application. But yeah, some of them are very broad.
I want to just point out something here. If you are like, if you find a lab which is yours, like this is my dream lab, I want to necessarily work at this institution, this lab, then probably sub-programs are not the best option for you, because when you apply to sub-program, they would try to just look at your priority out of the institutions that you choose. But then when they want to, like for example, mine was dental, then they would just see where is the spot available. They wouldn't necessarily be able to just you couldn't say I want to necessarily work at this lab if you're applying through a sub program, because if you're not, then you would be able to just contact each lab PI or the supervisor and just make the connection and see if you are able to get in. So if you find a lab which is your dream lab and you necessarily want to work in that lab, which is a pretty risky decision, don't do that. But if you want to do it, then the sub program is not a good option for you because there is no guarantee that which lab you will be working in.
Yeah, in that case, then it may be like if you know the lab that you want to work in and you're like, this is it. I would recommend going to the institute of that lab belongs to and finding out if the institute itself offers an internship opportunity and then connecting with the director or the staff that's running that program, because that way they can more likely connect you with the lab. And a nice thing about it is that like because these programs are they're kind of like mediators or they connect you with the lab, but they aren't like part of the lab themselves. Like they will provide funding for you. So the lab doesn't have to pay for you to join their lab. So you're more likely to be able to get in with the lab that you want to be with. And so I would say if you know that you're interested in a specific topic, then go to the institute that has research around that topic, and then try to find a program that's in that institute.
Yeah, I think that's why they also have you put your three choices. But at the bottom line is that I think, um, and I don't know if that's the case, and you guys could probably test to this. If you're not interested in something, do they force you into that lab?
I think they try to place you somewhere where they think you'll be interested. And if you have a problem with your placement, you're welcome to reach out. But they do their best to put you somewhere where they think that you'll be happy.
Yeah, and I think like I mean, I know like I don't think you know at this point as a first or second year student, you know a lot about research to be really, really specific, unless like you absolutely know it's just really hard to I don't know. I mean, that's just my own personal theory and philosophy is that you're kind of like at this point where, you know, you don't know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. And there's this whole world out there that you don't know anything about and just go and enjoy the experience instead of, I don't know, that's just my thing.
I
There's a
agree.
Beatles song, Let It Be,
And like this program is like a launch pad, so you gain translational skills that you can use at any lab. So if you're not working on like your life dream research experience, like your first summer of research, it's still valuable for you to take with you in the next summer or like for the rest of your life, pretty much.
I mean, I just say like medical field, I work in the medical field and research. It's kind of like in a gang. You got to get initiated in. So kind of look at this, initiation, and then once you're in, people know people and you could get connected through around. So it's yeah, I don't know. I think like, I think people unless you're like some sort of like specific thing, like if you had somebody in your like I could tell you like in the medical field, fam families or mothers or kids that have like very specific diseases, they know so much about that disease that you get kind of floored about it. And they know so much about that disease, or family members know so much about that disease. Even like some people that are like, I've seen even like some ER docs are like, yeah, let me go read a book. Let me go read a chapter about this disease because it's like, but those mothers or fathers or loved ones know so much about that disease. Then I think unless you're in that position, um, I don't know. That's just kind of my opinion. So my opinion doesn't really matter, but just throwing it out there. Um, I think Nishida had a question.
Our next question we have is it a wet lab and or clinical research?
It's all of the above. You can get wet lab experience. They also have like more of like bioinformatics or like data-driven research. And then there are clinical research opportunities available. There were a few people in the sub programs that had those opportunities. I think they're a little bit more rare, but they do exist.
Yeah, I think it's really just about like what you mentioned that you're interested in, and they try to connect you with a lab that is in that area. But like Jubin said, it is nice to keep your options open. And so just kind of exploring different things. So if, you know, if it's kind of in a certain kind of area that you might be interested in exploring, mentioning that, and then they can connect you with the lab that's available and also that they think would be a good fit. But in terms of the type of research, the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, is like the biggest, like if not, is one of the biggest, if not the biggest research institute in this nation. So they do research across
It's
all of
actually in the world.
those backgrounds in the world. There you go. So yeah, they have all sorts of research. They have wet lab, dry lab, and clinical.
Yeah, and then the other thing, and this is something that I want to say, if you're NIH funds a lot of research, so if you spend the summer there and you go back to your campus and you find some NIH funded program, you know, kind of have like this, like again, the whole gang thing that, you know, you're kind of like, hey, I spent the summer there. Can I come and work in your lab type of thing? So just saying. And I think like I would say look at it this way, like this is one of the things that I love to do is just get my backpack and fly to a country that I don't speak the language or know anything about it. How do you get to know? You talk to the locals, you meet your cab driver or the person, and kind of look at it this way, like you're going into this world that you don't know anything about, and the people that are there are the natives, like the researchers, the postdocs, you know, the PIs, and they're kind of guiding you through it. I mean, granted, like most of us travel now and read like Lonely Planet and other stuff, but just think that those books didn't exist. Um, uh, Nishida, I think you had a question.
Yeah. All right. Our next question is, how long before the application is due do you recommend asking for a letter of rec? I've never asked anyone for one before, so I was wondering how I should go about it. This is from an attendee.
For this one, I have advice. It doesn't matter necessarily it's for NIH or it's for your college. I was like first like, okay, as soon as possible is the best thing. But then later on, I figured out that it's not the best. You have to just find the optimal time. Like if the deadline is like a month from now, just start to talk to your professor a month before, 2 months before, then send them an email. Don't worry about them. They want to send the letter on the deadline. And I was so stressed on my recommendation letter. All my recommenders was like submitting it like 10 minutes before the deadline. I don't know if this is their way. I mean, usually they're like this. So just make sure that you send them a reminder emails. They're gonna do it, but they'll do it in a way that you're gonna stress usually. So, but if you if you have a professor which you don't have a class with the semester like before the applying to the NIH, then there's the other option which you could just ask them to write your letter because they might forget you and just like keep that letter for you, and then they could send it just like close to the application deadline.
My biggest advice for when you're asking for a letter of rec is to ask first if they're able to write you a good one. Some professors will just say, oh yeah, they got a good grade in my class. They're a good student, I think. I don't really remember. They sat in the back. That was cool though. And other professors will be able to sit down with you and talk about all of the activities that you're involved in, and they'll be interested in writing you something that is really of use for you. So before you just go ahead and say, yeah, please write me a letter, I think it's important to find professors that are really interested in helping you and are able to take the time to get to know you to write you a really strong letter.
Yeah, and adding on to that, I'm not sure if I remember correctly, but one of your letter of rec has to be from a science or math faculty. I don't know if you guys remember that. So, what I did for my application is I had a really strong connection with my math professor, so I asked for a letter of rec there, and then I also asked for a letter of rec in honors class I was in because in that honors class, you kind of have to take the lead, and it's a smaller class, so I feel like my professor really got to know me better. So both the academic and the personal is really important when it comes to letter of rec and choosing who's going to write it for you.
Yeah, and just know that asking for a letter recommendation from a professor is not like an uncommon thing. It's actually pretty common. They get requests all the time, so don't feel like you're, imposing something that's going to be uncomfortable for them, or they're not going to know how to do it. They should know what is involved in writing a recommendation letter, but it is advisable that you do um, ask for a letter of someone that you feel like kind of has a better sense of who you are as a student, not only in the classroom, but if they know a little bit more about you personally, like your life, like other things that you want to do, things that you have done. You can also in your requests in your email. So like what I personally did was like in person, I would ask them if they could write me a recommendation letter. If they said yes, then I would follow up with an email and I would say maybe like closer to the time of like at least a month in advance for sure. Like to maybe 2 months would be best. Send them an email, say, hey, just following up on, when we spoke and you said that you would write me a recommendation letter. The application is going to be, or the deadline is going to be at this date. And here's some information about me to help you write your letter. And so you should mention some things about yourself that they may not know, and that can help them to kind of mold the letter a little bit more to you and what you're trying to do in your life. And then
Yeah,
follow up.
go ahead.
Follow up is important. I just want to say follow up. I think like if you like, a month in advance for sure, and then like as you get closer to the deadline, just maybe nudging every kind of week, because you don't want to be in a situation where you miss a deadline and it's a very stressful situation. And professors just they have so much going on that it's not even intentional. It's just they could have like they have classes, they have a family, they have other things going on. So just nudging them, like I would say, like a week or 2 weeks as you get closer to the deadline is another important thing to remember.
Somebody asked this question, should a friend or family member write you a letter of recommendation?
I mean, I guess I just answered that I mean, I remember our application, it was clearly stating that if it's from your family member, I'm not sure about the friend, but I remember the family member was saying that like it's not acceptable. I mean,
Yeah,
it's more based on honesty. If like your aunts write you a letter of recommendation, maybe they never like understand it, but it's more based on your honesty.
yeah, there's this little thing called the internet now that everything is Googleable and foundable. So if you have a family member who writes you a letter and they find out, they could actually like kick you out. The other thing is, I think a friend is like a peer classmate, and that's a big no-no too. Somebody that has supervisory or, like your work, a boss or your professors. I mean, I think one of the letters has to be a professor. I would just say on letters of recommendation, it's not like a 20-second, hey, can you write me a letter of recommendation? All right, bye. It's actually like it's a process. You have to have a relationship with your professor. You also have to know them, and you have to know them outside of like within the confines of, office hours, after lab and stuff like that. The other part of it too, most of these people hate writing. Science people hate writing. So I would say give them as much time as possible. I always say 3 months just because your first month you're kind of like, it's kind of the dance. The second month you do the ask, and then you also give them like certainly if you're a non-traditional older student, I give them like a biographical sketch saying, hey, this is, if you haven't talked to them about this, but also as a good reminder to have that. Some people will even ask you for your transcripts to say, hey, can I see like your unofficial transcripts and anything else? Some professors that are like really like type A personality will actually give you a questionnaire that want you to fill out a questionnaire. And then the other part of it too is if you ask them to do it, probably like a week before you could send them a follow-up email just saying, hey, I just want you to know the thing is due next week. The cool thing about all of these systems is when somebody submits an application, you get a notification email. So then, if you're like Amir Parsa, that you're like on the edge until it's submitted, then you could be less on the edge, at least edge until you get the confirmation. Um, but yeah, it's not like an easy thing, and I think we did a workshop on this last year. We had a couple of professors that talk about how they want to see letters of recommendation, but it's not like a 20-second thing. I could tell you that right now. The other thing is the deadlines for this program. It's January 12th. So this is like a good time to start asking your professor, saying, yeah, I'm going to apply to this. And then after the semester is done, like that's when you send them, you drop the bomb after they turn in their grades and everything, then they could do it. Or after the first of the year. But yeah, so start as early as possible. Um, and then yeah, so I think that's kind of the with the letter of like recommendation. And just remember with the application too, with anything, this is actually a government job. So if you fudge or make things up or not say things that are not true, you could actually be like disqualified and terminated. And that's kind of like a big deal. So don't do it. Like don't say that, you went on Mars and it, you know, picked up rocks on Mars and you came back and don't make stuff up. Just kind of say like, it's okay. As a first or second year community college student, you don't have a lot of experience and they know that. And that's why these programs exist. I think that she does add another question.
All right, our next question is how should I, this is from an attendee, how should I, as a first year community college student, get into research? I find research fascinating and I know you need a lot of research for an MD, PhD, or MSTP program, and I want to apply.
Apply to intern at the NIH. Woo! There's so many opportunities available at the NIH. It's a great place to spend a summer. There's a lot to do in like the DMV area as well. And within the NIH itself, they have a lot of workshops, things outside of the actual internship that you can take advantage of. But as a first year, I mean, I think these opportunities are available to you for sure, like as like your first summer at community college. So you just have to be 17 years old. But as long as you have that and you're looking for a research experience, a lot of times community colleges don't have like an actually established or well-developed labs that you can do research in. So look for opportunities outside of your community college, and the NIH is definitely one of those opportunities. So I would say, I think Dr. Milgram is having her webinar where she's answering a lot of questions around the internship opportunities at the NIH next Friday. So attend that and
December
start
8th,
learning about how you.
December 8th. Sorry. Next Friday is Thanksgiving.
Sorry. So December 8th. Okay. And so that's right. And so attend that webinar and start looking into, I mean, honestly, you should start looking into the opportunity now because December 8th is really close to the deadline or a month-ish. So you should start looking now. You can have a couple weeks. And yeah, just look at opportunities that you can apply to. And that's how you start getting involved in research.
Yeah, it's all about finding opportunities. If you're a community college student, it's all about finding opportunities outside of community college if you're interested in research, because they're pretty sparse while you're in community college, unfortunately. And I would apply to a few programs. So the NIH is one of the amazing opportunities you can take advantage of, but there are lots out there, and it just takes some digging to find them. Your school might have a list of ones that other students from your community college have gone to. I know mine does. I actually just created it. So you can look through and apply to a few to make sure that you get into one that is a good fit for you.
Rachel, I kind of know this. So, how many programs did you apply to summer?
I ended up applying to 8 programs.
And how
Um,
many of them did you get rejected from?
I got into 3.
So you got rejected
So
from, so yeah, less than 50%. So yeah, so I would say like diversify. It's kind of like, playing craps, you want to get as many boxes as you can. Just, just saying. Um, but yeah, and so like this is just one program. There's a whole list of them. We have somebody on December 2nd who's gonna talk to you about like application for any program, and she started this website called rufinder.org .com, and she's spoken a few times here, and so you could look at her former presentations. What about you, Amir, Parsa, Lori, and Catherine?
I just applied for NIH, and that was it.
Same.
It doesn't mean that I was so like confident. Was just like I wasn't even confident. I mean, enough confident to be like sure to just like NIH is the where I would be accepted. I was just okay, let's try. Well, there's nothing. So yeah, I just applied to
Yeah.
NIH.
Yeah, I didn't really know of any other opportunities. I think that like I was still kind of like really early on in like getting into research, and that was something like the NIH opportunity was something that my biology professor introduced to me. Um, and I think that what I did do was I applied to 2 programs within the NIH, and that was kind of like my safe net, my safety net. And then one of those opportunities I had connected directly with the director, and it really seemed like she had like given me like some good feedback. And so I felt good about that. But I was so that's why my recommendation earlier on in this webinar was to try to connect with the people that are making the decisions, because then they can give you feedback on your application and you can make edits to your essays and things like that. And it's not just you relying on yourself to try to figure out how good your application or your essay is. So
Yeah, and I didn't really know about any other internships besides the NIH. So I feel like applying to the NIH would be a great start, because I feel like once you get this internship, hopefully you guys, everybody who's interested gets it. It opens doors, and anywhere who sees your resume and they see NIH, it's like a big golden medal. So it just helps with other research opportunities which you could get in the future.
So I think, Rachel, it worked
So,
out that you ended up at the NIH, because it's like the best opportunity, honestly. Anybody sees that on your resume, and I'll say that to the rest of the people listening. And it's a big deal. So it's awesome.
no, I think you guys should buy the lottery for me from now on. You guys that are like 100 for 100. Sorry, Rachel. You don't have, just kidding. Joke. But no, I mean, I think the whole point of it is like, I mean, a couple of weeks ago we had somebody here that like applied, both of them applied for one program, one of them got it, the other one didn't, but the other one that didn't get into a program got into another thing. So you just gonna have to try and fail. I mean, that's how you learn. It's like, you can't shoot 100% in life. Um, I think you had one more question, right?
Yeah. So the next question we have is, after you submit your application, how long do you wait to obtain a response if you obtained a research opportunity?
I can answer to this question. So it varies a bit based on the what sub program you have. And if you're just applying for general SIP application, it could be sooner or later. But the email that I got, so our step was 2-step process. Since the year that we applied, I guess Rachel and other people don't know that, but we had 2-step. We had one final list, and then there was another admission on that one. So the first notification that I got was on March 1st. And the second notification, which was the definite like admission, was like 10 days after. So it's March 10th.
Yeah, adding on to that, They vary depending on the program you want to go into, but they do kind of give you like a heads up a week, not a week, like 10 days before, and they mention if you're a finalist. I remember receiving that email also with the heading like you're a finalist, and then they give you like a great intro and this and that, and they're gonna let you know officially on March 10th, I think it was. Yeah, March 10th.
Yeah.
And then March 10th, they give you your official letter with your stipend and all the other information. So they give you a heads up, and then the final notice is on March 10th.
And I just want to add on that, I mean, the feeling of that email is pretty awesome. I mean, the moment that you see that word congratulations coming from the NIH, I mean, I'll never change that feeling with anything else.
Very cool. A couple of things
Wait for medical school. Wait for medical school acceptances.
Yeah.
I'll ask you that.
Yeah, sure. But NIH is different.
He wants to go to dental school. He wants to be a torturist.
Oh, that's right.
I'm afraid of dentists. Like seriously, like I take Valium before I go to get my teeth cleaned. Anyways, that's like a personal question. Couple of things. On December 1st, we have the MD PhD program director for UCLA Caltech who's giving a talk, and he actually went to Catherine's and Laurie's community college. He's an alumni of there. So, and then there's also a showcase for ruifinder.com on November 30th where they have a bunch of programs that are coming and talking, and you can talk to the program directors. I don't exactly know which programs are there, but you could sign up and show up and figure it out. And before we go, because I'm actually like have to go eat dinner and start work. The application is open now, and the dates are posted on the website. And I think we mentioned it, January 12th and January 19th is when the letters are due. But definitely spend a little bit of time on the website and get all those questions answered. They even have a video on the website on how you do the application process. This is another question I have. If you miss the deadline, what happens? Can you email them and say to open it?
Maybe for the year after.
Yeah. If you miss the deadline, that's kind of the thing. Like, sorry, they're not going to open it up. So, and it's your responsibility to know when the deadlines are. So, the yes, it is open. You could go to the website and look at it. Before we leave, what is one advice you would give to yourself a year ago at this point?
Okay, I have a piece of advice. My advice to me and my advice to everyone listening is that you're capable of more than you think you are. And so strive for opportunities that are higher than what you think you can accomplish. And so that's something that I kind of discovered for myself. And it took, for me personally, it took other people believing in me and kind of edging me on because I didn't like kind of believe that myself. And but I decided to take the jump, and I think that's like the missing link for a lot of people is like people will push you, but it's you ultimately that has to make that decision. So I think that's my piece of advice is, you know, aim for higher, even if you don't think it's possible, just do it.
Yeah, my advice would be, sorry, Catherine, do you want to go first? Okay. My advice would be to do what scares you. Do what scares you, because obviously for me it was kind of hard to think about going across the country to do a research experience at the NIH. That was just like it seemed like a lot, and Jubin saw me like a few weeks before. I was like, what if I just want to go to this other program like a few miles away? Maybe that'll be better for me. And he was like, no, don't do that. So yeah, I would just say that it's important to push yourself. I'm really glad that I did, and everything will work out. So you don't grow without challenging yourself.
Yeah, some advice adding on to like what Lori said. I wouldn't have applied to this internship at all, but I had a little gut feeling that I was like, what can I lose? Like the worst thing that could happen is no. So that would be my advice. If you have even the little sliver of hope, please just apply. You'll most likely get it. Everything will be okay. And if not, it's a learning experience for next year or any other internship.
And my advice is to myself mostly. A year ago at this point, I was stressed about transferring to University of Maryland, applying to UMD, what will happen to my scores and bunch of stuff. They went all smooth, great. I mean, at the best thing possible. So what I say to myself is don't think about what will happen, just work as hard as you can, then there would be the most chances for you. There would be always luck playing your role in your life, but the more that you try, the luck would be with you. So just try as much as you can, work as much as you can, and then don't care about what happened. I mean, the best thing would happen for you for sure.
All right, I would just say the my favorite quote about luck is that luck is an accident that happens to the competent. And I think in terms of competent is that you have to try and not be afraid to fail. Um, there is failure in life, absolutely. I think if you have never failed in life, then you've never really lived. And so I think that, it's okay to be afraid. I think one of the things we always like, I work in clinical medicine, and so if you're not a little afraid, then that means that you don't care or you don't value what you're doing. And so, I mean, I would try it. Like I said, Dr. Milgram was really ill today, and when I spoke with her on the phone, I'm like, no, no, you stay home and you sleep because she couldn't really talk. And she's going to come back on December 8th, and you could ask her all the deep, intimate questions that you want about the process. But thank you for Catherine, Lori, Amir Parsa, and Rachel for coming today, and um, and looking forward to having you guys come again. And yeah, and have a great weekend. And we will be posting the session when we're done in a day or two or three, whenever the rendering. And everyone have a great weekend.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Nice to see you guys.